Every financial revolution has a breakthrough instrument. Strategy has two, Strike and Strife. Now, if you don't understand these two innovations, then you won't understand where strategy is heading. So in this video, I want to explain why Strike and Strife are the engines to strategy's future success. Now, first, let's understand the strategy playbook. If you haven't already, I invite you to watch the video where I unpack the playbook in detail. I'll leave a link to that video in the description if you're watching on YouTube. But in a nutshell, it is this. Michael Saylor wants to acquire as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. The best way to do that is to raise capital. The best way to do that is to create financial products that appeal to the entire investor spectrum, because different investors are optimizing for different outcomes based on their volatility, risk, and return goals. Now, not all products are created equal, because each product has a different level of Bitcoin torque, which is essentially return on capital. And so each product has a different degree of accretion. So for example, convertible bonds have more Bitcoin torque than the ATM. Strike has more Bitcoin torque than convertible bonds, and Strife has more Bitcoin torque than Strike. So that's the business model in a nutshell. Now, we've heard Michael Saylor explicitly state that he wants strategy to become the Amazon of the fixed income market. 2 months ago, in an interview with the Economic Club of New York, we also heard Michael Saylor state explicitly that he wanted to capture 1% of the fixed income market. Here's the clip.
Look, we're tapping into the fixed income markets. There's what, 300 trillion of fixed income. So I want 1% of it. So like, could I raise 100 billion, 200 billion dollars of capital? Sure, I could.
Now, at this moment in time, what products do you think Saylor is going to use to tap into the fixed income market? Of course, it's Strike and Strife. Now, let's unpack both products. Strike is a convertible preferred stock that pays an annual dividends of 8% and comes with the option to convert to common stock at $1,000. So in other words, if, or rather when, MSTR hits $1,000, holders of Strike have the option, not the obligation, to convert their shares to common stock at a ratio of 10-1. So for every 10 shares of Strike you have, you are entitled to 1 share of MSTR. Strife, on the other hand, is a perpetual preferred stock that pays an annual dividends of 10%, but with no option to convert. So with that in mind, it is clear that Strike is going to be used to tap into the convertible bond market. Strife is going to be used to tap into the broader fixed income market. Now, the beauty, my friends, the beauty of these products is that they resemble traditional bonds, but they are structured as preferred equity, which allows strategy to raise capital without increasing debt. Now, what does all this mean for equity holders? Well, up until this point, strategy has primarily been using the ATM to raise capital to buy Bitcoin. However, remember, Strike and Strife are more accretive than the ATM. So the more demand strategy is able to create for these products, for Strike and Strife, the less they'll need to use the ATM, and so the more accretive Bitcoin purchases will be. And so to the degree that strategy succeeds at this, to the degree that strategy is able to generate more and more demand for these products, is to the degree that it will determine the performance of the company over the coming years. Now, let me emphasize, we're not talking about a small innovation here. We are talking about completely transforming global finance and the capital markets. And I say that as a word of caution because it is going to take time to build demand for these products, which is why, if you're an equity shareholder, you need to have patience. You have to expand your time horizon and think a minimum of 3 to 5 years out. So, in summary, Michael Saylor's goal is to acquire as much Bitcoin as humanly possible. To do that, he wants to tap into the fixed income market to raise capital and use it to buy Bitcoin. To tap into the fixed income market, he's going to use Strike and Strife as vehicles to attract that capital. And that is why Strike and Strife aren't just some arbitrary products that Strategy has created. They are literally the engines to Strategy's future success. And so on that note, I'm going to wrap things up. Hopefully now you understand the magnitude of what Strategy is doing and what Strategy is attempting to achieve. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. Follow me on X at Chris M. Millas. I'm trying to put more video content out, but I don't like to force it. And so I tend to wait for these, what I call motivational waves, where I have this burning need to convey an idea. And so that's when I'll start putting a script together for a video. But anyway, stay tuned. And until next time, remember, the best is yet to come.